Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome back, brothers and sisters. We've got a very interesting show today. So, today's topic is going to be somewhat based upon the Olympics that are going to start, or if not already started already. And let me just, I've got some, okay, let me get that going. It's very interesting, brothers and sisters, because in 1964, and Brother Yusuf can also tell me if I'm correct in this statement, between 1964 and 1988, South Africa was banned from participating in the Olympics because it was apartheid a state. But the ICJ have declared Israel to be an apartheid state. So when does its ban start? I really want to open this thought process for people to kind of comprehend and take note of it, the hypocrisy and the double standards of the Western governments. And of course, we recently saw the devil himself enter the Senate in America and give a speech. And he got a standing ovation. How offensive is that, brothers and sisters? And again, the hypocrisy of the Western governments. But I'm not going to keep you waiting for too long. Our co-host, Brother Yusuf, is here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, Brother Yusuf. Mike's all yours.
Walaikum salam and good evening and assalamu alaikum to the viewers out there. Certainly, yeah, you've raised an interesting point from 1964, right? In fact, the first time that South Africa participated in the Olympic Games was 1992. But it wasn't just the Olympic Games. We were excluded from the Soccer World Cup. In fact, I think I don't think they qualified for the ones 1930, 34, and 38, and of course during the Second World War is out. But from 62 right up until, in fact, the only time, the first time South Africa qualified for the World Cup or got to participate really was 1998, and even rugby, for example, because both South Africa and England, we share passions on our three major sports: cricket, rugby, and football. Those are major sports in England, and they are major sports in South Africa. So we kind of share the same kind of we've inherited the same colonial sports. But we were subjected to bannings, even rugby. I mean, when there were these rebel tours by New Zealand and some of these, All Blacks, but they came under severe attack. But what is quite interesting is that at this Olympic Games, Russia is banned. I don't know if people know Russia is banned at this Olympic Games. There are Russian athletes that are participating, but they will be participating individually. But Russia is basically banned from these Olympic Games. And there's been a complete move to, I mean, what Russia has done over the past couple of 2 years, 3 years, is pales into comparison to what the state of Israel has done. So it just pales into comparison: the genocide, the slaughter, the apartheid. And Israel's allowed. In fact, there was a pitch invasion yesterday at the game between Israel and I think Mali. Mali should have done the right thing and just simply boycotted the match, because I think the football tournament started about 2 or 3 days ago. The official opening will be tomorrow, and Israel will be participating. Russia, I think probably this would be the first time since the collapse of the Soviet Union that Russia will not be participating in the Olympics. I can't recall if there was a doping scandal, but I don't think this is the first time Russia will not be participating in the Olympic Games since the collapse of the Soviet Union, meaning from 92 till 2020, which is 2021, they've always participated. But Israel, on the other hand, there's far more greater grounds to ban their participation, is in fact allowed to participate. And this comes at a price, because just a couple of days, and like I said, news and information grows. And I'd like you to share the link, because we're not going to have a very long session. So sometimes people's appetites are whet when they see a possible link that they could get to participate, but they then get more interested in the channel. So that's our StreamYard link. If you're a Zionist, we've had many of them. If you are a pro-Israeli propagandist, you can come in. The link is there, StreamYard. But I just want to show you something that has happened just 2 days ago. In fact, 2 days ago, which was 3 days ago rather, where approximately 70 Palestinians were murdered, massacred at Khan Yunis. This is something that happened where and approximately 200 overwhelmed the Nasser Medical Complex, which is a kind of a last grasp resort for these poor injured Palestinians. Let me share this with you, and so that you can see what we're dealing with here. And this is about 3 days ago. Russia has come nowhere near. Russia is nowhere near what we see here. So this is I think this is the latest. Here we are. If we could share the screen, this is what we have here. If it's shared on the screen, Brother Mohammed, yeah. Dozens killed as Palestinians flee new offensive on Khan Yunis. And this was on the 22nd of July. Today's the 25th, 3 days ago. At least this is one strike. 70 Palestinians were killed, massacred, and more than 200 wounded in Israel's latest assault on the Khan Yunis area in southern Gaza. The Palestinians fled, and the Gaza Ministry of Health stated, and they gave the report, that the attacks and the massacres came and happened. They always happen in the early hours of the morning, and 70 people have been martyred. 70 people, no Hamas, but obviously they're going to make justification. So this is a 2-minute clip, which you can probably view if it's still available. And again, stressing images. Let me just warn the viewers. So it says here, a family was sleeping and they hit them. They were children. This is the American Nazi. This is Netanyahu Nazism. The strikes killed dozens, including in parts formerly declared safe zones. This again goes to the whole notion that there are safe zones. That's what Netanyahu will probably deal with. I don't want to deal with him entirely, but we'll deal and show what happened at Congress, how he lied that Israel hasn't killed any civilians, amazingly enough. But these are safe zones where civilians were told to move to, and they were massacred.
فجأة طلعت لقيت بنت اخويا مرميه وخواتي مرميات واولاد اخوان لقيت اشلاء.
Look at what he says. He found his niece, nephews, and mother on the ground.
لقيت اشلاء.
They started shooting at them. They started shooting, meaning these snipers opened fire on these civilians. I mean, these are poor people. They were in pieces, dismembered. The mother collapses. And there was an evacuation order. And obviously, where do they go to? But even when they go to the safe zones, they are massacred and killed. So this gives a lie to the notion that they are taking precaution. It gives a total lie.
طلعت على الصناعة خنوس وطلعت على عبسان ومن عبسان نزحنا الدور اللي فات نفس الشيء ورجعنا بعديها كمان مرة واليوم هنطلعونا وهنا أنا رجال مريض وما.
Look at this lady. I mean, people with diabetes. Look at this elderly woman. I mean, you must be sick in your head to try and justify what's going on as legitimate defense. It's no longer defense.
وتوصل معي غيبوبة ارتبت في الشارع مش قادر أمشي مش عارف إيش أسوي.
Israel said the attacks on the were a response to Hamas operations. Again, a useful excuse, convenient bogeyman blaming Hamas. And that's the official death count, 39,000. And that's a conservative estimate because figures are now ranging close to 50, 60,000. And this is not even the people who are basically kept under the rubble. Imagine that. Those because there were dumb bombs used in northern Gaza. So imagine the dead people under the rubble.
Yeah, also there's reports, Brother Yusuf, that they've been burning the shells that have impacted certain locations, burn the bodies. So
Yeah.
they use those type of weapons. So of course then the ministry, the hospital ministry can't really give you a number of people who actually died, because the bodies are being burnt totally, to ashes, so they can't be identified. So they've been talking about that also, and it's just, brother, carry on.
Yeah, what I'm saying, just to go back, and there was an individual associate of mine that came back, and he's involved in humanitarian work, and he says he's never seen the amount of flies in Gaza, because if you go particularly to the north, there's dead everywhere. You could basically practically go to the rubble there, and you could probably find and come across a decomposing corpse. I mean, that's how bad the situation has been. And the problem is amplified that Israel basically is now, in fact, using, they're bulldozing. There's bulldozing. I sent an article, I think probably, when was it? Some time back, that they were bulldozing bodies, Israel bulldozing dead bodies. Let me just see if I can share that. Israeli bulldozers, and then share this particular. This was quite shocking and disturbing to me. That was 16th of December, and this we're looking at July 2024. This is a raid. We've seen in the past how these bulldozers were basically destroying people in Gaza and going over them. We've covered some of these particular things. Here's a situation where Israeli bulldozers, imagine that, were carrying bodies through Tulkarem after the raid. Now, Tulkarem is a refugee camp, but it's not in Gaza. It's in the occupied West Bank after a raid that killed people. Have a look at this. I'll share the screen here just to show how evil and
we've got somebody backstage.
We'll get him on. Slave to Allah.
Yeah, but he seems like to be a young child. Can you just confirm your age, please, in private chat? How old you are?
If you can just share this. Here we are.
He's 17.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll let me share the screen here and see what we've got here. This is Israeli bulldozer. We've seen images like this before, but this is now. And you see the dead bodies.
Yeah.
Dead bodies in the bulldozer. Where are they going to come from? So they claim these are commandos, part again of an anti-terrorist operation. Look at the devastation. That's in the West Bank. So, and this basically goes to show, I just want to share one last screen to just basically to illustrate the Western hypocrisy that you basically see. And this is from one day ago from The Guardian, which is your newspaper, your article, in relation to what we've got here. And this is the hypocrisy that your government, in fact, manifests, and certainly the French government entirely. I'm going to share this last screen to show how Western hypocrisy operates. Here we are. This is from The Guardian from a day ago. Can you see this here? It's on your screen. If you can share the screen. I've just shared it right now. Yeah. Here we are. Russian and Belarusian. Let me just see if I can expand it. No, I can't. Russian and Belarusian Olympic athletes accused of supporting war in Iran. Human Rights has accused the International of negligence of releasing a dossier of 17 Russian and it's shown support for the war, for the Ukraine war, which is a breach of the Olympic rules. So it's a breach of the Olympic rules if Russia or Belarusian athletes show support for the Russian government publicly. But it's acceptable if you have an Israeli competitor that basically supports the state of Israel participating in the Olympics. Russia, historically one of the largest Olympic participants, have been banned by the International Olympic from sending official teams because of the invasion of Ukraine, which was launched by Moscow in 2022 with non-military support from Minsk. So they are banned. Now, contrast that situation with Israeli athletes, and there you're going to see them tomorrow showing the flags at Olympics, basically signing off the death warrant of Palestinian children. Let me just show you this individual here. This is a guy. This is from, again, I think it's a UK. The Metro is a United Kingdom.
That's right, yeah.
It's a UK paper. So this is a guy here. He's in the judo team. I don't know if you do judo, but this guy needs a bit of a whopping. Here we are here. This is, now contrast how Russians are treated, the Russian athletes, with this scoundrel and dirty scumbag here. Look at him. Here's this guy here. He's at the, I'm just sharing this. Now you can share it from the Metro, from the United Kingdom. And here we are here. Look at what it says here. So it says here, Israeli flag bearer for Paris Olympics signed bombs to heading for Gaza. This is a guy here, Peter Palchik, and this is what he did. This is his signature. Israeli flag has been accused of signing bombs intended for the children of Gaza. Judo champion Peter Palchik has been selected as one of Israel's 2 flag bearers ahead of the opening ceremony tomorrow night. That's on Friday. A former national and European champion, Palchik will represent Israel in the team, having won a bronze medal at the last Olympics in Tokyo. But the decision to choose Palchik as a flag bearer has caused an uproar on social media, as after one of the 32-year-old's tweets resurfaced on the games. So this is a situation that you have in terms of the hypocrisy that you see in contrasting that with Israel and that with basically Russia, the double standard. So Russia is bad. If any athlete basically, even this is it. From me to you, that's Peter Palchik. From me to you with pleasure. This was from his Twitter page. From me to you with pleasure. This is on October 22nd. And Palchik has deleted the tweet, but has been claimed that he signed the bomb himself, as his signature appeared to be on display, as well as the judo term ippon. If you check it, there's a judo term ippon, which is the highest score a fighter can achieve. Why would you do that? This is a guy here. He will be competing at the Olympics on behalf of Israel. But Russia, which is basically hasn't done anything remotely near to what Israel has done, they banned. So that's the double standards that we've got, Brother Mohammed, in terms of what we see here in relation. And let me tell you, the 70 people killed, that's just on Monday. They've been going on. I mean, they've been going on. They've been killings now on Tuesday. They've been killings on Wednesday. They've been killings on just today at the Nusayrat refugee camp. They've been killings this entire week. So the 70 was the massive one hit, but there's been sporadic killings that have been happening throughout the week, despite Netanyahu's appearance. We saw the standing ovation that he got. Shocking, absolutely shocking, and he was in a state of total denial. No substance in anything whatsoever that he said. Absolutely none.
Yeah, his statements, how he said that he spoke to one of his generals or his commanders in Rafah, and somehow the commander gave him an exact figure of 1,203 Hamas fighters being killed. but no civilians were killed. Now, no, subhanallah, Alim. After watching all these images of women and children, bodies upon bodies, janazas after janazas, and he finished that that discussion or that type of introduction, and then how many people stood up and clapped him. For me, brother Yusuf, it was just it's just unspeakable. But yet, the fact that the ICJ, if I'm not wrong in this, have made the verdict that the invasion of Palestine and fighting within that by the IDF is illegal.
Yeah.
So whoever supplied, so we have to think now outside the box, brothers and sisters, because whoever now has been supplying them with the weapons to kill the Palestinians are also accountable now. All the ships and the harbors, or this billions of pound harbor they built by one of the ocean sides in Gaza, all that has gone to waste. And anybody who supplied one bullet to the IDF is now guilty and should come under under judgment. Has to be done now, because we have to look outside the picture. If they are guilty for fighting, and the people who are supplying the weapons are also guilty now in providing the armor, the ammunitions and whatnot to kill the Palestinians. As a criminal lawyer yourself, Yusuf, the fact that they are now, other governments are involved in supplying weapons and money, they are going to be accountable. Is there
Absolutely.
For example, if I'm going to supply you the weapon or the knife or the gun to go and shoot or take out one particular person, surely I will also be charged with some type of criminal actions, because I'm the one who supplied you the weapon. Knowingly, you come up to me, you said to me, I'm going to shoot this man. Brother Mohammed, give me the gun. Okay, here's the gun, go and shoot him. So I'm actually part of the crime. Isn't that so, Brother Yusuf?
No, indeed. Basically, if I give you a gun to shoot, then basically you are an accomplice. I'm an accomplice. If I give you something, then basically I'm an accomplice entirely. In terms of what, if I give you a gun, if I give you a firearm, I can be then charged for murder. I can be charged for murder. This is a situation. I can be charged for murder in relation to it. But I just want to see the charade to just show how, despite what you see, despite what us as normal human beings do, it is amazing how, you tell me, this is what the Nazis, or at least the followers of Hitler, did to Hitler when they basically saw him, the adulation, the obeisance, which, in Congress, many US presidents themselves will not basically get. Despite the mass murder and what you're discussing, the killings and the rapacious, war crimes that are basically happening daily. Have a look at this, and you probably saw this. I'm going to share this particular screen. I'm not going to show the entire speech, but I've just gone to the main area. This is basically Netanyahu entering Congress. This is him entering Congress. Just look at the time. I want people to see what a sick world we are living in. These are the people. These are the people that their careers are sustained by AIPAC and by Netanyahu. He's got them there. Look at this. This is him entering. No American president, by the way, no American president gets this kind of response. Even when Joe Biden walked in at his State of the Union address, no one gets this kind of particular ovation. Look at that.
To be fair, there are some people who are not clapping. Rashida
Tlaib was there. She was not clapping. There are one or two that are not. That's Chuck Schumer. Who criticized him. But he had a photo. He did a photo shoot with him thereafter. so it goes up and they don't stop. Now, which American president has got this? It's like a rock star, a hero. It doesn't stop. Normally when you get to the platform, it stops.
Some of the lies I really want to touch upon, Yusuf, and get your thoughts upon some of those lies in his speech.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to deal with some of the lies that go through there if we have the time. But lies of enormous proportions. Doesn't stop. I mean, who does this? When you don't do this for your own leader, you don't do it for Biden or Trump. I mean, is this guy some sort of god to you guys in Congress? Doesn't stop. And he's turning to the speaker to say, when is he going to stop? Did you see that? He's actually turning to him. Did you see that? So he turned to him, and then he asked him, when is he going to stop? You'll check that. He can't take enough. I mean, and it's like it's not enough, the adulation they've got for him. Now watch him turn. He puts his hand there. Watch him. Oh. He's getting uncomfortable. Scumbag, psychopath. It goes on for about four minutes. I think we're just going to close it shortly. And then the guy gives the hammer, the speaker behind him.
Well, hopefully wax it over his head.
He's saying, what's going on? He wants them to stop. They're not stopping.
Members of Congress, I now have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel.
And they start again.
He's getting sick and tired of it.
I mean, what kind of insane world are we living in, brother? What insane world are we living in? This is what you call, when the Quran speaks about shirk. This is shirk. This is idolatry. This is polytheism. These are the Fir'auns of our time. 100%. Worshipping of the pharaohs, the modern day pharaohs. This is ideal example of polytheism. This is what the Quran tells us to stand up and oppose. But with due respect to Rashida Tlaib, she was, I think, one of the few individuals that she had a card going out stating, holding up, calling him a war criminal and someone that was committing genocide, and the fact that he's guilty of war crimes and a genocide there. But I mean, it's
some of his aspects. Yeah, definitely, Yusuf. I really want to touch on some of his statements in his speech. It made me sick to my stomach, where he also started to repeat the same message that was given at the beginning of the war regarding Israel is one of the only nations that taking precautions to avoid harming civilians. And after watching these clips, and we've been going for the last couple of months now, what precautions have they took? None whatsoever. I mean, there's no precautions. I mean, you can't even, these are the talking points. Then he spoke about the burning of babies. The Hamas burn. That's been debunked now, long time. He's still going on with that. I mean, that's been long debunked as fake news. Hamas killed 1,200. They were initially saying 2,500. Now we know that's also fake, because Israel killed a substantial number of its population.
and there were only 800 civilians killed. A significant number were killed by the Israeli military using the Hannibal Directive. Iran is funding anti-Israel protests in the USA, which is rubbish. He said Iran was behind the assassination of Trump. Listen to his speech. I listened to the 55-minute speech. Iran behind the assassination of Trump. Anti-Israel protests call for the genocide of Jews. That's false, because outside the Congress or within Congress, there were Jews that were there. And he said practically no civilians have been killed in Rafah. I mean, what lies is that? No civilian. Jerusalem is eternal character. And of course, Hamas is stealing all the humanitarian aid that enters Gaza. I mean, on all these points that he has raised, lies. When we've debunked every single one of them. I mean, Jews themselves. He's talking about Hamas protests. Jews protest, at the Congress, and they were violently dealt with by the police. The Jewish activists, they were arrested during the protests in the Congress building. I'll show you this. I'll show you this particular piece here, if they can have this here, and we'll just see some of these images quickly, and then we can move on. But here's one example here. Here's an example. I'm gonna try and see what happens. Here we are. These are Jews that are being arrested, and just have a listen to this clip here. This is a sit-in. Jewish peace protest groups had a sit-in in Gaza. They're not funded by Iran. They're not funded by Iran at all. Have a look at them. Here we are. I'm going to share the screen, and we can then view this particular clip, and then we can move on and discuss. These are an organization called Jews for Peace. Listen to this. I'm going to play this. Here we are.
Director of the Jewish Voice for Peace. She joins us live from Washington, D.C. Welcome to the program. Overall, then, what does this protest actually hope to achieve?
This protest gathered over 400 American Jews, rabbis, students, descendants of Holocaust survivors from all across the country, gathered together in the heart of Congress to tell our president, to tell our vice president, to tell our elected officials that what we need right now is a weapons embargo. We need an end to the U.S. funding and aiding and sending weapons to the Israeli military. We need a ceasefire right now, and the only way we're going to get that is through a permanent weapons embargo that will ensure that our weapons are not being used to commit a genocide.
But how much impact can you actually have, though, when you consider how committed the U.S. administration is when it comes to Israel?
The U.S. administration likes to pretend that it is completely oblivious to everything that the incredibly popular Palestinian liberation movement across the United States and the world has been doing. And yet we have seen seismic shifts. It's not enough. We are going to continue pressing. We are going to continue doing more. But the only way that U.S. foreign policy has ever shifted to center human rights in its long history of doing terribly egregious things has been when there has been a popular uprising demanding change. And we are seeing that right now. We were 400 people having a peaceful civil disobedience sit-in in the heart of Congress, but we represented the majority of American voters. We represented the majority of the American Jewish population, all of whom want a ceasefire and support a weapons embargo.
Let me ask you then, have you had any contact with the families of captives trying to lobby for their release, and what have they said to you?
We haven't met with those people, but we do have members with us who also have either family members or friends that are captive. And we know from their conversations with their families and with their friends back in Israel that what everybody wants is to see a ceasefire and a diplomatic solution, because that's the only way we're going to actually have a future where Palestinians, where Israelis, where everybody is safe and free and equal.
What kind of reaction then have you had to this protest, and what happens next?
The reaction from the people that happened to be in the building was quite positive. The police were obviously distressed, and they arrested over 300 of us. But we are going to keep going. And tomorrow, US-based Palestinian groups are organizing a massive, massive protest. So that at the exact same time as the war criminal Netanyahu is addressing US Congress, thousands and tens of thousands of people, all wearing red, will be forming a giant red line around Congress, demanding this is the red line. We have to have a weapons embargo now. And Jewish Voice for Peace will be there in the midst.
So this is it. And so these are the individuals that Netanyahu is saying is being funded by Israel. I mean, you can see lies, clear propaganda, vicious. I mean, the guy's a monster. I mean, to describe him as a monster is, even giving him a bit of a high status. I mean, is evil, manifest evil. I mean, in the regime, it's not just him, it's the entire system, the entire Israeli regime that has to go, that has to collapse. And we've been calling for its collapse from the time that this genocide basically started. So there were lies galore. I mean, he basically denied any civilians were killed. He said all protesters are funded by Iran. He said that they're giving something like 40,000 trucks into Israel, into Gaza, and that Hamas is stealing the food aid, which we saw is true, that the Israeli settlers themselves are blocking the food aid from entering Gaza. I mean, this is quite clear. And in fact, there's no chain, there's no direct chain. The people in the areas cannot get the food, cannot get the access to the food. So they want to show this kind of public relations charade that there are trucks there, which are not Israeli trucks. It's not Israel giving foods. It's humanitarian organizations, and they're giving this charade that, look, we are allowing these humanitarian organizations to enter Gaza, but they're not. They're not. And the one time a Western entity came in, the World Central Food Kitchen, they were all shot dead and murdered. They gave the coordinates to the Israeli Defense Force, despite that they were murdered. So these are the people you're dealing with. In terms of what we have. And it's ironical that Russia is banned from the Olympic Games and they cannot enter, but Israel is given free pass, even though they are starving, they are destroying, they are maiming, they are injuring, they are butchering the population in cold blood. What does it say about the International Olympic Committee? I mean, if any participant faces Israel, the best form of civil disobedience is to basically refuse to participate. And I wondered why Mali chose to engage in the football match with Israel yesterday. There was no need for that. So this is the reality of what we have here. And I thought maybe we could just basically share in relation to what we see here in terms of what we have. So if we have nobody that's in the stream or anyone wanting to enter, this boy who wants to wait until he reaches adulthood, we were willing to speak to him. But if he's waiting till adulthood, then of course he can come on then in the future.
Yeah,
we're still around.
You mentioned regarding aid trucks going in. On average, I think it's supposed to be 500 a day.
Yeah.
Only 104 aid trucks have been going into certain parts of Gaza. And now there are reports of snipers in Khan Yunis just taking out anybody that moves. And Khan Yunis, I remember you on about the red line a couple of months ago, if not a month ago.
Yeah.
The red line was Rafah. And they've gone into Rafah. Tanks have gone into Rafah. Foot soldiers, infantry soldiers have gone into Rafah. People are being massacred in Rafah. Where is this red line now? And
there's no red line.
There's no red line.
No red
you
line.
know, yeah, I actually do feel now, and it's quite strong for me to say, there are aspects of racial profiling. The fact that these are not Europeans, these are Arabs, or even I would say Muslims. That's why there's hypocrisy. I'm sure if they were Christians and they were Europeans, there will be so much going on to stop the conflict. It wouldn't even gone on for about a week or 2 weeks. What's your take on that, Yusuf?
Absolutely. There is now a racial element to it. And because they're Palestinians and not Europeans. I mean, the major aid organization, the major entity that was dealing with refugees and providing legitimate aid was UNRWA. UNRWA is shut down, Israel made sure that the major, most prominent aid organization out there assisting refugees that was formed by the United Nations for this particular crisis is not allowed to operate in Gaza. So that in itself says, and their justification for that was that UNRWA was involved in October 7th. Well, now we know that's also a lie. That's fake news. They were not involved in October 7th. So that's garbage. But that was a justification that they needed to bring, part of their atrocity propaganda, in order to justify that UNRWA does not serve the Palestinians, because they are the organization that serves. But if they suddenly stop it and say, look, you can't serve them, then of course it's going to create a stink. So they had to invent something and fabricate this idea that UNRWA were involved in October 7th and had links with Hamas, which is total garbage. The other point is this. You need about 500 to 600 trucks required daily to feed millions of Palestinians that are on the brink of starvation. Not even half of that is coming through. Not even 200 is coming through. And of the remaining trucks that are managing to be and wait on the border, I mean, they're being stopped by Israeli settlers. We've seen those images. You know, you've seen those images. So when Israeli soldiers stop aid trucks from entering Gaza, how can you basically say that aid is reaching Gaza? How on earth can you say Israeli troops stop aid? So if they're stopping aid, how can you basically say that aid is reaching Gaza? And I mean, Gallant basically himself said that aid should stop. So what did Gallant say at the commencement of this was part and parcel of the plan of Israel at the very beginning, that to say no, there should be no aid given to Gaza. That was the whole aim. Now you're saying you're trying to justify that there's aid. Look at what Gallant said. Let me show you this clip here by Gallant. This is the Israeli res. This was 5 months ago. They're saying they're going to block the aid. Let you off Gallant. You see? So, I mean, this basically is I mean, what else could we see? What else do you want to see in relation to this, in terms of the fact that Israeli settlers stopping aid? This was a few weeks ago. So there's no aid. The Netanyahu is saying they are allowing aid to enter. This was what far-right Israelis were doing about a month ago. This was like on CBS News. Have a look at this on CBS News. Check this a month ago. See what these Israeli far-right settlers were doing with the full support of the IDF and the Israeli military. This was on CBS. This was on CBS News. You'll have a look at it. I'll just move it to you, and let's just share this particular screen just to show you that this is from neutral websites. These are from neutral channels, or at least Western channels, which people basically claim we want to only give a biased view. I'm trying to show Western channels here. Look at this. Here we are. These are far-right.
Attempting to block aid trucks from entering the Palestinian territory themselves, and even at times destroying the humanitarian goods. They're images that have enraged and horrified Jewish settlers and right-wing extremists throwing aid destined for Gaza to the ground. This was not a one-off. For months, videos have emerged showing aid convoys for Gaza being blocked or vandalized by settlers and far-right Israeli activists in attacks condemned by the White House.
It is a total outrage that there are people who are attacking and looting these convoys coming from Jordan, going to Gaza to deliver humanitarian assistance.
What did Netanyahu state yesterday? He said Hamas is blocking the aid to Gaza at Congress. He said Hamas is stealing the aid from Gaza.
Also being assaults. Palestinian truck driver Mohsen Shaheen can be seen in this video lying bloodied on the ground next to his truck after he says he was beaten by a group of settlers who had wrongly assumed he was hauling aid to Gaza. The window to my truck was open and a settler came in and sprayed me with pepper spray, he says. Then there was a rock or iron bar smashing through the window. It hit me in the face. Blood was everywhere. I thought I was going to die. During the assault, the Israeli soldiers seen in the video just stood by, Mohsen says.
Look at Israeli soldiers stood by. These soldiers that told Galan, stop everything.
Not only are Israeli troops and police accused of not preventing attacks on aid convoys for Gaza, there are also allegations that some tip off extremist groups. CBS
So you
News
see
gained
what they
access.
say, what CBS is saying? That these soldiers are tipping off these extremist groups. They don't want to do the dirty work. They've got these settlers to do the dirty work. And they tell them, look, aid is coming here. I need you to come, you guys come and make sure none of this aid is going through. So the far-right Israeli settlers are blocking Gaza aid trucks. Yet Netanyahu lied yesterday or day before yesterday at Congress to say Hamas is blocking Gaza aid trucks. It's like an inversion of reality. It's a projection. It's a projection. This is a lie. Israel is not giving aid to Gaza. And by the way, these aid trucks are not Israeli. They're coming from foreign aid agencies.
Says to a WhatsApp forum used by one such group called We.
Look at the food. Look at the food. They're starving people, and these swines are destroying food and healthcare and medicine.
Won't forget. It cataloged in detail how many trucks would be in a convoy, what routes they would travel on, and the crossings they moved through on any given day. In this message, members were told explicitly how the information was obtained. It read, methods for blocking acts. We get preliminary info from border crossing workers, police, and soldiers. Another message mentions Bezalel Smotrich, Israel's ultra-nationalist finance minister. For those who asked, the following information came from Minister Smotrich, who wrote to the Prime Minister and asked him how come he approved aid to Gaza. Smotrich, who has major influence with Israel's far right, used his position to block a U.S.-funded flour shipment to Gaza in February after making the baseless claim that because
he blocked a U.S.-funded flour shipment to Gaza. Imagine that.
the flour was being transferred to the UN, it would then be handed to Hamas. Withholding aid from Gaza is not an entirely fringe view. A recent poll found 44% of Israelis believed Israel should make aid conditional on a hostage release deal, and 22% do not want to provide any aid until the war has ended. Yusuf Debrezer not only doesn't want aid to get to Gaza, he's also a key organizer behind the blockade movement. The 23-year-old says he's been detained 12 times for obstructing supplies to Gaza, but so far has yet to be charged.
To be clear, though, what you're saying...
So he's basically blocking aid to Gaza. They're giving a superficial notion of arresting him, but he hasn't been charged. Imagine that.
Is that you've seen some soldiers and police officers who are supportive of what you're doing.
Of course, he says. I believe most of the country thinks we should not send aid.
Still, whatever your protest is, to deprive a starving civilian population from food, people do think is wrong. Why don't you?
In every war, there is someone who loses and someone who wins. Either the people in Gaza will die, either the people in Israel will die, he says. It's black and white. After nearly 9 months of devastating violence and destruction, there's still barely any aid reaching desperate Palestinians in Gaza. And while the settlers and activist groups' attempts at blocking supplies have only had a limited impact, the real obstruction comes from the Israeli government itself. Multiple aid agencies say Israel routinely and arbitrarily denies legitimate humanitarian goods from entering Gaza through a highly complicated inspection and approval process without clear or consistent instructions. The UN says 1.1 million people, nearly half the population of Gaza, now face catastrophic levels of hunger and that the territory is on the brink of famine.
It's starvation. People saying, we had that swine Tonto, the abusive nutcase. He's never seen a blown baby. He's never seen starvation. Here's the images on CBS.
For Shaheen, he hasn't been able to work since he was attacked, nor does he think he'll receive any justice.
So you believe that these Jewish extremist settlers are effectively above the law?
If the soldier is standing there watching the settler attacking me, attacking my truck, and then beating me, he says. Then finally they help me? Why don't they stop them from the beginning?
Do you believe that any of the men who attacked you, who are clearly identifiable in the videos we've seen of the assault on you, will ever face justice?
I don't expect justice, he says. The whole world sees that there is no justice. And CBS News reached out to Israel's security forces for a comment on the allegations members of their forces were tipping off far-right groups who were blocking aid or not intervening when convoys were attacked. Now, the IDF directed us to the police, who in a statement said that, and I'm quoting here, to the best of its knowledge, the claims were baseless and unfounded rumors.
Claims were baseless and unfounded rumors. Does any of that look unfounded? I mean, how much more can you lie when something is so clear? And this is who the IOC wants at the Olympic Games and allows to participate at the Olympic Games. But Russia, which has done nothing close to this, is banned. Hypocrisy of the worst kind. Now, nobody can go and talk about lecturing to Muslims on human rights or lecturing to Africans on human rights. You've got nothing. You've got nothing, absolutely nothing. Don't come and talk about human rights to us or teach us or lecture us in Africa how to implement. You've got no human rights. You've got hypocrisy, insanity, insane behavior, and adulation and idolatry of some of the worst people on planet Earth, some of the worst people on planet Earth. And they say Putin is bad. Putin, I mean, he's nowhere near as a dictator as he is, or as autocratic as he is, nowhere near what the Israeli regime has got up to over the past 9 months. I mean, they've set a record. By the way, the death rate, if you look at the death rate in Gaza, the death rate has been viewed as equivalent to the death rate in Rwanda. That's how bad it has been. Obviously, we haven't reached that stage where so many hundreds of thousands have been killed. But I mean, if you take into account the rubble, the dead under rubble, it could well be over 100,000 that have been killed. That's the equivalent. The death rate that you had in Rwanda is a death rate of the IDF. Look at the comparison. So much for his claim that they've been extra precautious. I mean, you just look at the death count in Rafah. He denied the Rafah killings. He denied there's any civilians killed in Gaza. He says that where there have been killings, it's probably a shrapnel here or there. No, they've targeted refugee camps. They've targeted the Jabalia refugee camp. They've targeted individuals. This is a situation. We can keep on talking, but talk till the point that the world just simply turns away and calls for the total elimination of the state, disbandment of the state, cruelty of the state. But I wanted to basically just explore for you and expose the hypocrisy at the eve of the so-called farce called the Olympic Games. Olympic Games is therefore was supposed to be, at least ideally speaking, for unity of nations and camaraderie between different nations and groups engaging in sport. And the only conflict is you engage in sport with each other, compete at sport, not compete at war. How do you allow someone that just lives on war, is founded by war, sustained itself through war, and basically perpetuates an ongoing genocide? How does that work? How on earth does that work? So there you have it, Brother Mohammed. Is anyone in the chat?
We're going to give it another 5 minutes. If anybody wants to jump on and argue the point or make a case for why we are wrong, feel free to jump on. The link has been posted in the chat, but the rules are really simple. At least backstage, please put your camera on, give us a quick wave, and then we can get you on to the show. I don't know if you know, Brother Yusuf, here in the UK, our military commander has told the UK to prepare for war in 2026 or 2026 or 2027. We have been told that we will be in 4 different conflicts, and he's come out and mentioned it. First of all, he wants the conflict with Russia, China, Iran, and the 4th one was regarding Taiwan. And so basically, brothers and sisters, here in the UK, the highest, of level of military, like a general, whatever, the 5-star general, has announced that in 2026 or 2027, we have to be prepared to go to war with 3 to 4 different nations. It's
That's
absolutely
is
mad
this a
here.
guy here, Brother Mohammed? Is this a guy here? Rolly Walker.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see this particular article until you pointed it out to me. Rolly Walker. I don't know much about his background. He's the army chief. So it's like this axis of evil, axis
Yeah.
of upheaval, similar to, what the United States said years ago. I mean, something similar.
But
Fight a war.
this guy himself has actually, I don't think, has been exposed to a military. He's not actually done a tour. I don't even think he's been on the front line. He's just absolutely bonkers, as we say here in the UK. He's definitely losing his marbles because we haven't got enough troops. This is why when the Conservative Party were in power, they wanted to bring in the national service to boost up the troops because we haven't got enough troops. We have across the 3, Air Force, Navy, and the Army. We haven't got enough troops, and so they're really desperate now to boost up.
So it's a form of increasing budgetary spending, right, on the army. I think probably that may be a call, kind of a call for increasing spending on the army, because it says not asking immediately for money. The Chief of Defense of the British Army could justify extra investment if its effectiveness improved. Probably it's a kind of a call for increased investment in the army. I don't know, but the last major war you fought was a disaster. I mean, there was some involvement in Libya and of course Syria. But I mean, your major war that you had more than close to 20 years ago was Iraq. That was a disaster.
Also, Afghanistan. No. Afghanistan was a disaster.
Afghanistan, of course, yeah. Afghanistan, Iraq, and Afghanistan. And I think you still had, until recently, the withdrawal. You had recent troops in Afghanistan.
Yeah, we left all the materials there: helicopters, aeroplanes, weapons. They just made a quick exit. And before the Afghan army never had an air force, but now they do, thanks to us.
They do.
I don't know. Also, I wanted to mention that here in the UK, the Conservative Party had a policy: if you have more than 2 children, anybody past 2 children, third, fourth, or the 5th child or plus will not receive any additional finances or benefits. It was like a 2-child cap here. And even the Labour Party, initially they said that they will scrap it, but they've actually seemed to continue with it. And they said they cannot afford it, to add on the extra £20 a month or week to the 3rd or 4th child. And child poverty is a big thing here in UK. But we are willing to give Ukraine over the next 100 years, over 100 years, billions of pounds.
Wow.
But we haven't got enough to feed our own. It's just...
What's a dole like? Well, how much is a dole in the UK?
Oh, bro, that's a good question. I think it's every 2 weeks. I think it's about 70 to 80 pound a week, every 2 weeks.
So it's 70 to 80 pounds. So it's it's per week, 80 pounds a week, right?
No, I think it's 2 weeks. Let me just have a look.
It's about 160 pounds per month.
It's called job seekers allowance. 1 second.
Job seekers. So are you permanently on that? Even as an immigrant, you can be on job seekers allowance.
No, I don't think it. Let me see. Let me just see how much it is. Bear with me, brother Yusuf. If you age up to 24, weekly amount is £71.70. If you're over 25, you'll get £90 50p.
Yeah. So it's about £360 a month, right?
Yeah, but to be honest, that is, you can't afford. That's probably just, majority of that will go on your bills if you were unemployed.
That's a significant amount according to South African standards. Well, I mean, again, that's about 7,200 rands, which is a kind of an average income of the lower income worker in South Africa, about 7,200. So, but I don't know how much your standard of living is extremely high, and I assume very expensive.
Yeah, it is very expensive.
There are pockets of extreme wealth and extreme poverty. I mean, I think you've got the East End of London, which is traditionally been more poorer, and then you've got the places like Chelsea and other areas which are far more affluent. So it's kind of a contradiction in terms of what you've got there in British society.
There is a huge gap here. There is a massive gap in the UK between the wealthy and the poor. It seems to be growing in length day by day. It really is. The politicians are in a different world. They come back. They have millions and if not billions of pounds in investments, and they are not really in touch with the local people. They've got no idea.
It's a question of priorities. The politicians are corrupt, and it's the priorities of the government, of your government, which seems to be both the same, two sides of the same coin. I mean, I don't see a difference between Starmer and Sunak. I mean, Starmer was calling for the initial stages. He supported the policy of no water, no food, total starvation on the population of Gaza. So he's not a good man by any means.
No, he's rotten. He's rotten to the core. He is
rotten to the core. The same with Sunak. I mean, both.
I don't know if you know in the maybe about 10, 15 or longer years ago, we had this infamous individual, a paedophile called Jimmy Savile.
Jimmy Savile, yes, of course, Jimmy Savile.
He was actually at that time. Keir Starmer was actually in the court system. He's head of the court, and he actually let him go. He didn't press any charges against him. And
well, I mean, Savile was close to back in the day, even Lord Mountbatten before he was killed, and members of the British royal family, Prince Andrew. I mean, he met Charles. I don't know if Charles was involved in anything, but the Queen. But I mean, he was very close to the royal family. He was a popular figure, and I mean, nobody knew that he was abusing children, sexually abusing children. And this goes to show a lot of these individuals in media, entertainment, political circles are involved heavily in the pedophile networks, totally in the pedophile network. So I wouldn't put it past members of the royal family and members and politicians indeed that are involved in relation to what you see here.
That's what I said to you previously, Brother Yusuf, and I do feel there is like a black book somewhere with people's names on there who visited the island and did some disgusting stuff with young people. I definitely think there is a book out there somewhere, and people are being either they're being videotaped or recorded, and that's being used as some type of blackmail. I do feel that is the case strongly. I think there is something dodgy going on, because you can't let some of these crimes happen without.
Yeah.
There has to be something. Something's just not right, Brother Yusuf.
No, indeed. Well, wasn't there this case in Jersey, one of the Jersey homes some years back? I remember reading in 2010, 2009 about the kind of abuse that were going on at children's hodon't in Jersey, a place called Jersey. I don't know where Jersey is in both the British and the I don't know whether it's the Channel Islands. And the story goes is that there were politicians that turned up.
The
babies that were. Where about is it? Is it Jersey? Hautila Garin. I'm not so sure where on earth that was. Where's Jersey?
Oh, there's quite a lot actually. Just by Googling.
Is it here? There was this article here which showed politicians that were part and parcel of this whole setup, and this was a reputable source. It wasn't one of those conspiracy websites, but this is from I wouldn't say Daily Mail, Mail Online. Here we are. I've known about Jersey pedophiles for 15 years as an award-winning journalist, and there were cover-ups by politicians, individuals. Children were sexually abused and buried underground, and they found their skeletons inside the homes. It was a children's home. And apparently politicians in the political class, these were the individuals, they found skulls of children. And the story goes that Jimmy Savile apparently visited these places run by a pedophile gang. Politicians were involved there. I'm not so sure where this place is. Jersey. So this was going on. There's a long article in the Daily Mail, and a lot of high-profile individuals that were there.
I remember some of the churches, like the Catholic churches. Again,
that is the case.
Kids,
very common.
Women, young girls had children, and they were told to, basically foster the children or the child to a loving family. But in reality, this child was going to a particular hostel or a particular, monastery, and of course, then being abused and.
I mean, pedophilia has always been a kind of a traditionally white man's domain. It's always been, I mean, if you look at the number of pedophiles, the vast majority of them are white, elderly white men, and white men in many instances in positions of power. It's very much a kind of a thing amongst white people, or at least those that are there. So this is the problem. I saw that you had a scandal in, what's his place? I forget where Galloway is now. The
Rochdale.
Rochdale.
Right?
Rochdale. Yeah, the Rochdale gang. But I mean, that was kind of an aberration. In contrast to that, you had the vast majority of sexual abusers of children came from British white men. And this is the thing: these same white men who are pro-Israeli in many respects. In fact, did I tell this to you that Zaka, the founder, the organization that was funneling the atrocity propaganda of Israel? Did we discuss this? That organization, Zaka, the founder of Zaka, the organization. I think there was when we had that video shown. I had Paul on the show. This guy Yossi Landau was interviewed by the Al Jazeera and was questioned, where are the dead babies? He's now running the organization, Zaka. It's a voluntary community emergency response. And they were the first group that was there at the Kibbutz Be'eri on October 7th. They were basically responsible for the atrocity propaganda that we basically saw. But, and I just want to share this with you, that the founder of the organization that is responsible for the atrocity propaganda of the dead babies and the killing of individuals. We can share that. This is the founder. If you can see them on the screen, Yehuda Meshi Zahav. Can you see this, Brother Mohammed?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Zaka's co-founder and main figurehead for more than 30 years was awarded the Israel Prize in March 2021. There were multiple accusations surfaced of having committed sexual assaults against women, girls and boys over several decades with the knowledge of others in the community. And this is in the Haaretz. This is the organization that is responsible for spreading the lies that Hamas was involved in mass rape. Zaka is behind. Zaka spread that news to different parts of the world. Hamas was involved in mass rape. Hamas was burning babies and beheading babies. It's now known that Zaka is Yossi Landau, the present runner. But the founder of Zaka, Yehuda Mehi Sahav, this sick individual here, the celebrated founder of Zaka, had a darker side, taking advantage of his position for decades with the knowledge of others, including Yossi Landau. And he was involved in sexually assaulting individuals, sexually assaulting boys and girls. And they're the ones, this is the organization that is behind the atrocity propaganda that Hamas burned babies and raped children, and there were mass rapes and the beheading of babies. This is the organization. I mean, you could write a book about this.
You could,
I couldn't make this up. I was thinking constrained to write a book just on October 7th and the amount of atrocity propaganda. This is the organization, Zaka, Yossi Landau, the individual behind the whole, the organization behind the atrocity propaganda. And its founder was known for decades of being a pedophile. Imagine that. This is the organization spreading atrocity propaganda against Hamas. You know, when Tonto came, that guy, I don't know why his name, I showed that video of Yossi Landau where he was interviewed by Al Jazeera, and one of the, I think you were on the backstage, one of the journalists asked him to show him the dead picture, and he couldn't. But he cried and moaned and said there were mass rapes and all. That's the organization behind it. This organization here, Zaka. And the founder of the organization was a known pedophile. So it just goes to show you.
That's why I say, Yusuf, I do think there is something going on, something really sinister behind the scenes with some of these politicians.
We need to maybe unpack more of this in future shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, we want to touch on, if you don't mind, if I want to end up on this particular signing in China, in Beijing now, with Hamas and Fatah. They are coming together to work together. I don't know, what's your take on that?
Fantastic. If they can come and work together, at least it'll be a fantastic move. It'll show some degree of unity. Look, I mean, there's been a lot of corruption within Fatah over at least the Palestinian Authority, and Mahmoud Abbas, in my opinion, is not a fit leader. I mean, if you were to talk about a good representative, the guy that I kind of like is the one that has been appearing on the representative of the Palestinian Authority in the United Kingdom, the present ambassador, Hussam Zamlot. I mean, he's been pretty articulate. I've seen him. He seems to be a man of principle. He seems to be a man who's, the Palestinian Authority has traditionally always been critical of Hamas. But Zomlot told it as it is. And I've seen all his interviews, Piers Morgan on Channel 4, on BBC, on Sky. He's totally destroyed the pro-Israeli narrative. He's an individual that you could have, not Abbas. Abbas is probably as senile, if not worse than Biden. Similar. I've got no respect for him. He's been corrupt over the years. He's had his own comfort with the Israelis, and they've sustained him and they've allowed him. But someone like Zamlot should, in fact, take over the leadership of the Palestinian Authority. He obviously won't criticize Abu Mazen in publicly, but that's the kind of leadership that you need. And of course, if there could be a merging of a leadership between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, and of course other factions, there's a Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. The Popular Front, the PFLP, is not a Muslim group; it's a Christian group. I mean, but they are Christian socialists or Christian Marxists, and of course there's other movements. You had the Rabbi Isaac Munter. He could take a leadership position. These are the individuals that should shape policy. He's a Methodist. So there's different factions that should come together and stand up against this Israeli behemoth. So I would support these initiatives of coming together and certainly coming on a common cause in standing up against the Israeli onslaught and the Israeli belligerence and Israeli evil and Israeli genocide. So I would certainly support such initiatives.
Yeah. I just want to make a correction. I think there's around about 12 different parties that actually met together and tried to unite. And I hope they do, inshallah, unite and become one big force. So, inshallah.
We need an end to Israel. We need a complete end to Israel.
It just can't go on from Iraq. It's going to be nearly a year of the war, starting, and there's no signs of it ending. Or respect, as they say, given to Hamas and the freedom fighters to continue the fight and the struggle against the oppressor. And I actually feel now that if you can say the freedom fighters or people who are fighting back, or the Palestinian resistance, I should say, I don't think you can be charged for it anymore. Because why? Because now we know that the IDF are really going against the law of the land to go in there and fight. So at the end of the day, Yusuf, I think openly, and you can say it proudly now, that I back the Palestinian resistance force.
Absolutely.
We
never had a problem in South Africa. I mean, I don't have that issue, but I understand that in the UK, and I've seen a lot of these press interviews where they want to corner pro-Palestinian guests. I mean, I'm not ashamed of saying that I would support the Palestinian resistance. I'm not just talking about symbolic resistance. I'm talking about armed resistance against the Israeli military, against the IDF. Exactly. I mean, we could agree on one thing. I mean, that if Hamas or these individuals on October 7th just simply or solely targeted the Israeli military, I would say support them 100%. 100%. It would be game on then. Fair game. I have no issue with that. It's tragic that people did die, and from an Islamic point of view, we always uphold the Islamic standards. Islam does not allow killing of civilians in any context. There's no such thing as collateral damage. There's a hadith, or there's a narrative where the Prophet ﷺ came from a battle and he was shocked to see a woman that was killed, and it disturbed him. So certainly there's a high price to pay for the loss of lives. Islam values life more than any other faith. And that is a position. So they've got the right to defend themselves. As Amatur Rahman, who's a regular on this guest, I like the brother, and they always have. And certainly Israel does not have the right to defend itself under Article 51. I'm not just saying that loosely, but under Article 51 of the UN Charter. Remember that under Article 51 of the UN Charter, it does not allow a nation to defend itself if there is some sort of conflict that emanates from a land that it occupies. It's not one country against another country. Gaza is under occupied territory. So the people in Gaza, if they entered Israel, they were not invading a foreign nation or a foreign country. Sorry, I'm a sister. Sorry, Amatur Rahman. It's my my fault to describe you as a brother. I apologize, Sister Amatur Rahman. But I've seen you quite regularly on these programs, and I've seen your comments, and I really appreciate the support that you've got, and of course sharing our channels and Brother Mohammed's channels, and sharing it with others. So we really appreciate your support. Share the message, sister. We need sisters like you. You know, a lot of these programs, we get a lot of brothers. We'd like some sisters to come on and speak to us, and you are more than free to enter. There's no discrimination on this particular channel. You are free to air your views, your opinions. We don't shut down people. We're not an only male forum. It's both our brothers and sisters together. We reach out to all of you and we ask for your support, and certainly you are more than welcome to come in and of course share your views and give us your perspective. So with that said, Jazakallah, Sister Amatur Rahman, and continue with your support.
Yeah, much appreciated. Alhamdulillah, everybody who's a regular to the show, really appreciate it. And recently I have noticed my subscription have gone up, so thank you to everybody who's joining me also live now on Consider This TV, which was Kenny Burma's channel. So I've gone live on there today, and also I've gone active on Twitter and X. So I've been getting a lot of support, some positive feedback from X, especially from the Workers' Party of Britain, and I've been reaching out to certain individuals and possibly something planned in the pipeline. What day is it today, brother? I keep on forgetting what day. It's Thursday. So at 7 o'clock, which will be in about 40 minutes or so, I will be hosting the 5th part of the debate with Brother Yemeni and Paperboy. That'll be on my channel and hopefully Brother Yemeni's channel. So stay tuned for that. And then Saturday, I don't think I've got anything planned. And then Sunday, I'm heading to Speaker's Corner, inshallah. So stay tuned for that. And then on Tuesday, next week, 9 p.m., I'm hoping to get our brother Ustad Mohammed Imtiaz. Of course, as you guys know, Brother Imtiaz has been with Brother Adnan Rashid refuting the Ahmadiyyas. Okay, let me just see that. What was your last comment? Can you ask Brother Yusuf his thoughts on my last comment? Okay. Can you see that, Yusuf?
It would be best if Yahya Sinwar show up at The Hague. That would be best way to retain the present integrity as well as for the historic record. Yeah, but I don't think they'll let Sinwar leave. If he makes a public appearance anywhere in Gaza, they will massacre him. They will kill him. And the same goes for Mohammed Diab. They will kill him. They won't be able to go to The Hague, or they won't be even be allowed to leave Gaza. They're somewhere in Gaza, and of course the Israelis are indeed looking for them. So that would be good. Where you say the best way to retain the present integrity. I agree with that, but I don't think that'll be possible from that perspective. But I indeed agree.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Great way to end the show. Jazakallah khair.
We will hope to meet again, Brother Mohammed, and till then we greet each other. Greetings of peace and share the message.
Wa alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.